The Marlins come back again, back-to-back days, coming back from 4 runs down, and they seal the dub. Game 1 against the Royals. What a game. Fun game, offensive game, as advertised. But the Marlins are now on a 4-game winning streak. Are the Marlins the hottest team in Major League Baseball right now? I think yes. Is Luis Arraez the hottest hitter in baseball right now? I know it's yes. That is the only answer. So much to get into here. AJ Puk is back. Nick Fortes is heating up. And this Marlins club is streaking. Tons to get into. All on today's show.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This, of course, is your daily Marlins podcast. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter, of course, guys, at Miami Marlins_UK. If you're listening to the pod, hit subscribe. Of course, this is your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. There is a YouTube channel. Head on over there too. Hit subscribe. You will see the sexy graphics. You will see the guest in town as well. Sean Millerick is in the house. Sean, how are we doing, brother?
Doing great, living the dream. 4-game winning streak for the Marlins. Everyone else is playing for a championship in town. What a time for South Florida sports.
What a time for South Florida sports. This is insane. And I just saw as we just kind of started recording here, that Bally were reporting that last night's game 1 against the Royals, is the most watched Marlins game of the season. Eyeballs are starting to appear for the Marlins, which is great to see. Eyeballs on Locked On Marlins are also trending upwards. Everyone is interested in this club. The national writers are talking about Luis Arraez and the Miami Marlins. Things are going very, very well. Tons to get into all on today's episode. Our sponsor of today's episode is Gametime, and you can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. More about those guys later on. Sean, 4-game winning streak here for these Marlins. Tons of positives to take away. As we sit here, 6th of June, before Game 2 against the Royals, just your overall assessment at this point, your overall hype levels at this point for these Marlins.
I mean, with last night, can we even call it a comeback anymore if we expect it to happen?
No.
These guys are just they're fighting in every game. It's they're down, they're coming back, and I don't remember the last time I felt that way. Do you feel confident going into a game like that? They're down. Oh, we've got the sticks. We can handle this. They've got the stuff to not just sink into despair. I'm sure it's the Royals, it's the A's, but hey, they're major league teams. They got major league players on them. I'd like to have some of them possibly.
Absolutely.
In a couple months, and so no, it's. You can't be anything but excited. This team, there's something about them that it feels different from past years.
Definitely does. I just want to call that out. This is a statement or a sentence I have not ever heard uttered in my time as a Marlins fan, or at least the last 5 seasons. And it is, we've got the sticks, which Sean Millerick just threw out there. Then we've got the sticks. I'm stunned. But that is the reality. I was, the game started, not a UK friendly for me, but I did catch the start, saw they went 2 down. And like you, Sean, I thought, no problem. We've got the sticks. And I know the Royals pitching isn't amazing either. So that definitely helps. You have to beat them for, any team that's in front of you, you have to beat them. They're major league teams. They want to win. Players want to perform. The Royals offense actually, it definitely is not a terrible offense. And it was bit of a rough day for Braxton Garrett actually yesterday. It was one of his rougher starts of the year. It didn't, first inning got off to a sluggish start, settled in again, and then another kind of rough inning. But overall, mate, Braxy, still doing his thing as a 5th starter, still holding it down and doing the job. Obviously, the Marlins have got a decision to make pretty soon. Trevor Rogers will make one more rehab start, we know when his next one will be. The question is does Trevor slide into this rotation? And is it going to be Braxy or is it going to be Yuri Perez? I think those are the 2 main candidates.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough for Brax, right? I mean, I think he's proven at this point that he belongs in a big league rotation. He is a major league starting pitcher. I mean, he's a number 4, number 5 guy. I mean, I kind of think of him as in that Tom Kohler mold. coming aboard with the team, and that's to his credit. Tom Kohler was an immensely valuable starting pitcher for the Marlins for many years. His problem is that when everyone's healthy, and how often has that happened? But when everyone's healthy, the Marlins aren't a typical major league rotation. There's so many guys that he becomes that sixth or seventh option, which is a really valuable piece for a team contending in the playoffs. And I think, unfortunately for him, he did open the door a little bit last night with that 4-run performance that maybe he is that guy, maybe he should be, but even just but still he settled down. He kept the game in control, kept you in it. Kind of a lighter version of the Sandy start from Sunday. In a lot of ways. And so I'd hate to see him go down, but it's going to be really interesting to see. Yuri's the wild card. What do they do with his development? And if Brax does go down, we know Yuri's not finishing the season. He's not throwing 160, 170 innings. So Brax will be back if he does go down.
Absolutely. I think that is the obvious conundrum with Yuri Perez is, 120 is probably the max in many ways. And, it's how the Marlins decide to use those 120. Do they use them now while they're winning games? He's pitching well. I think yes. I mean, and to your point as well, for the Marlins, you can't have too many good major league starters. I mean, today's breaking news, I guess, Alek Manoah option to, well, I'm not even sure where he's been optioned to, the Florida Coast League or something. Manoah is down pitching to 17-year-olds. Him and Johnny Cueto are just holding it down in the FCL, which is wild, but just shows you, right, like sometimes the volatility of these guys, and you can't have enough pitching, and the Marlins are going to need to lean on it, which is going to be interesting. The national writers, the national eyeballs, though, just flicking over to the sticks. Luis Arraez started off as a story, felt like people kind of cooled the touch for maybe a week around it, but all of a sudden Arraez has flipped it again into another gear. He's hitting about 800 in the last 7 days. It's absolutely insane. He's now at 399 at the start of play, almost touching 400, mate. I mean, what he's doing is insane, right? I mean, it is just insane. I've never seen anything like it personally, mate. Have you?
No, and this goes back. I wasn't following baseball, very closely at all the last time this happened with there, and that was Tony Gwynn. The last time someone came this close back in '94 before they pulled the plug on that season. It would be, all I know is that it would be the most Marlins thing ever if he keeps this up all season, and for just the Marlins to file away that kind of stat, to have someone have the best season since Tony Gwynn, whether it's he actually clears 400 or just still finishes at 395 or better on the year. I think that would beat Gwynn's pace. But Marlins get their world championships, they get their no hitters, and maybe we'll make a run at this too. It's a really fun ride. It's the most I've enjoyed watching a Marlins hitter since probably Luis Castillo back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Just for watching a Marlins hitter come to the plate and be like, oh, he's going to get on base. He's going to get a hit. Yeah. He's got this.
This is it. I mean, I've watched the team since 2016. I can't remember a player or a hitter being intentionally walked as often as Luis Arraez. And it's not for his home run power, right? Like normally it's those guys where you think, oh boy, runner on base, couple of runners on, chance that there could be a 3-run blast here. No, that isn't what teams are worried about. They just pretty much accept that Luis Arraez is going to get a hit. And if there's a guy on second, there's probably a run scoring here. And so let's put him on and we'll just try our best with the rest. Like that. That's kind of, for me, a testament to how good this dude is. A lot of chatter today, both in terms of where he's up to, but people are starting to get onto the topic that I brought up on this pod. And for the everydayers will know this, starting to think about, is Luis Arraez in the MVP conversation? Should he be in the MVP conversation if he hits 400 this year? What's your take on this? Clearly, Ronald Acuna is having a stunning season in Atlanta, but a different type of stunning season to Luis Arraez. They're just different guys. So where do you sit on this one at this point?
I think they should. I mean, I think, and the one reason I think it should be is that, this is kind of what baseball wants, right? They want the ball put in play more. They want more hits. They want more action on the base paths. And Luis Arraez is the poster child, for that this season. Putting the ball in play, moving runners along, knocking them in, getting on base. Like, this is the fun baseball they wanted to go back to. So I think for that reason alone, would be a reason to really try to, Major League Baseball should be pushing that campaign. It's impressive. It's so rare. I mean, we're talking about something that happened in 1994. That's the last time there was a season even close to this, if this pace keeps up. And, there's always someone, hitting home runs and stealing bases and, not do so. Acuna's great. He's an elite, upper echelon player for sure. Freddie Freeman's having an amazing season as well, but just, it's something special, this kind of production, this kind of putting the bat on the ball. So I think Arraez definitely belongs in that chatter.
Yeah, absolutely. He absolutely should be in the conversation. I'm not saying he should be the MVP, but he should be in the conversation, no doubt. And I think if he hits 400 or anything high 300s, then he will be. Particularly if the Marlins do go on to clinch a playoff spot. I mean, if Arraez propels the Marlins into that situation, that changes things where you will start impacting your club in a way that takes you from, let's not forget, they were a 69-win team. If you flip a 69-win team to let's say 92 wins and they make the wild card, and Arraez is hitting nearly 400 or at 400, he has to be in the conversation because the impact he's made on this club. No doubt about it. So, there's a lot of games to go yet, but from what I've seen, Luis Arraez he's just a dog. He's just a straight up hitting machine. Rob, and your point you made, Sean, I think is absolutely on the money. Rob Manfred will be voting for Luis Arraez, no doubt, because it's, hey, my rule changes. This is my guy. And so, that's a great point. Let's get our first ads rolling. It's our good friends, and it's our show sponsors, but our good friends over at Gametime, and buying tickets to your favorite events. They shouldn't be stressful situations. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Trust me, you're going to start needing this app for Marlins games real soon. Eyeballs are on this club. There are going to be fans in the stands, no doubt about it. And you don't have to plan months in advance. You don't. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Can't say fairer than that. Pretty simple to get it rolling, guys. The graphics will help you. But for those listening, you download the Gametime app, you create an account, and you use this promo code, LOCKEDONMLB. It's all one word, and it's in caps. LOCKEDONMLB gives you $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Stunning. For those that are heading to the ballpark today in Game 2, they will hopefully get a chance to see the return of AJ Puk, baby. Puk has been recalled or activated off the IL. George Soriano, unsurprisingly, was demoted after Soriano in his first career save, I must say. So let's briefly touch on Soriano before we get into Puk. But Soriano there asked to give 3 innings in a blowout dub, which is also great, but gave up a couple of hits. But overall, like Soriano, limited opportunity, mate, but he's kind of impressed, I'd say, in his stint at the major league level, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he's done that a couple times this year, right? Yeah. Where they've asked him to come in and just kind of play the fireman role, and he's just been nails, saving nails, locking it down. So, you'd love to see a guy like that get that kind of opportunity, but there's inexplicably, compared to past seasons, the Marlins just have that many arms.
What's going on?
And I don't know how to compute. The good starters, we're used to. That narrative's been going on for a while, but this
no doubt
solid bullpen, I'm still trying to get my head around.
Yeah.
But I've heard on, I think the Spaces last night when it was talking about Matt Barnes, that he was actually either the 7th or the 8th most effective reliever that the Marlins had, and I'm like, how is that possible? Like I went through, checked it, and yes, that was correct. So with that many, talented people, you can see why Soriano gets bumped out. Certainly for someone like Puk,
no doubt,
who's just been amazing. The only thing more elite than his performance this year has been his Twitter game. On the social media breakout social media star of the Marlins, AJ Puk.
There we go. We love those. That's what we need. We need social media studs to emerge as the season goes on. But big for the Marlins, though, to get Puk back, right? I mean, it was almost devastating news with him going down And it was at a point, it felt critical. It felt a big moment in the year for the Marlins where you were like, oh boy, Jazz has gone down, Puck's gone down, Jesus Sanchez has gone down. It was like everyone that was hot down at the same time. The team managed to rally, keep it together. Now they're putting some dubs on the board, and now these guys are coming back too. And all of a sudden, you can see the talent, injecting in this talent is helping to, get these win streaks rolling. But for Puck, mate, in particular, just how impressive he has been in that ninth inning role, mate. Like, I know Skip ahead of the year was talking about mixing and matching saves, but if Puck's pitching, he's in the ninth and he's getting all the save opportunities, I think, mate, right?
I think so, but I mean, Floro just has really done a solid job when it's been the save situation. Like his ERA, like if you it's like it looks a little ugly on the surface right now, for something, but in save situations, I was looking at this before the show. It's 1.93.
Yeah,
ERA in save situations. So when you put him in that. And that gets into fans' head, right? That, sure, you put the closer in a non-save situation. Obviously, it's going to, go to hell and mess with them. But maybe that's a little true with Floro. I don't know. I'm sure he'd dispute that. But he's been at his best when the game's been the most stressful. So I could see them mixing and matching because I think Puck is the elite talent. So I wouldn't surprise me if there are situations where the best three hitters are coming up in the eighth. If that at least Skip knows that he has that option. That he can put Puck in there to handle that. But for the most part, I think you're right. I think we'll see Puck in the ninth. But
do you think they ease him in at all? Coming back off the IL, do you think they ease him in at all, or is it just like business as usual for Puck?
I could maybe see it in just given the quality of competition. Maybe I think that might be that actually is how he's eased in. It's not like we're bringing him back for the Braves or something. We're bringing him back in for the Royals, bringing him back in for the White Sox. Got the Nats next week, so hopefully, hopefully his first appearance won't be against Julio Rodriguez next week against the Mariners. We'll get him in before then.
Yeah, I think that'd be preferable. Yeah, just edge off any rust that may exist. And actually, for his rehab starts, I mean, there was no obvious rust in those, which is impressive. Speaking about rehab starts as well, and we're not quite there yet, but some news that kind of broke as we were about to hit record here, that we've seen Jazz Chisholm Jr. on the field, I think for the first time since his injury, being in a walking boot, etc. And he did a real nice podcast actually with the Marlins radio guys a few days ago, which was really great. It was one of the best Jazz Chisholm interviews I've actually ever heard, and those guys did a great job, covering a wide range of topics, but just to see Jazz back on the field, he felt confident about his timeline, actually. It sounds like Jazz is pretty much like not expecting any rehab. Like, I think to me, Jazz is saying, listen, I'm ready to go on the road in Chicago. Like, that seems to be what he's saying. But do the Marlins maybe pump the brakes a touch there on Jazz and, maybe ease him in, particularly with Jonathan Davis, like holding center field down as well as he has?
I think it's less about Davis than just the value that Jazz has to the organization. I mean, he's the star. He's what's going to stir the drink if this offense really takes off. And so, they're going to ease him into it. I guess Jazz really likes deep dish pizza or something. I don't know, but he's saying he's going to be back for the White Sox. The Marlins are not going to do that. I would think they'd want to hold him off. I mean, how long is the next road trip? Is it 6 or 9 games? If it's just 6, it wouldn't surprise me if they just wait for that next flashback Friday. But if it's 9 games, then he probably does come back on the road. Maybe the Nationals series. I
think it's the Nats. Yeah, I think because you got White Sox, Mariners, Nats. I think 3-city road trip again. So these road trips they're brutal, right? These 3 cities ones, particularly with a Seattle trip in there sprinkled in. So makes it tough. Yeah, you're right. I'm really intrigued to see what they do with Jazz, and equally, I'm intrigued to see what they do in terms of where he hits in the order. Like, let's not forget, started the year in the cleanup spot. There was a bit of Twitter discourse around that. Next thing is Jazz is back in the leadoff spot. Luis Arraez kind of knocked down. Luis Arraez in the leadoff spot, obviously, right now is just out of playing out of his mind. You want to get as many at bats for Luis Arraez as possible. I'm intrigued to see what they do with Jazz. Do you think they maybe look to slide him down a touch and, hit him in, 5-6 or something like in the 3 spot? I mean, where is his best spot in the order, or is there a best spot for him?
That's that's a good way to put it. That last point. I don't know if there is a best spot for him, but obviously he needs to be in it. Going into the season, I liked him at 2, but that seems Soler seems to have really kind of settled into that.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think I would say at the start of the season, but that seems to be working for him. So I don't want to mess with him right now. So then, I think I think probably it's 3. Then would be where we'll see him end up.
Yeah, it makes sense. It feels like a pretty strong lineup there, though, right? Where you Arraez leading off, Soler in 2, Jazz 3, Cooper Loop 4 probably, mix and match De La Cruz, Jeezy, and then Gurriel maybe again. What's that? Gurriel's hitting 7th. Lineup looks long. When Jazz is back in there, that lineup starts to look real long. Which is encouraging. We've got the sticks. Which is great. But, I think I do think 3 probably does fit well, particularly with the kind of Arraez, Soler, Jazz, Coop, the kind of righty-lefty mix and match element. So you can't, because they do try to protect Jazz against the lefties as best they can, because it's a clear challenge for Jazz. Even though, again, on that podcast I'm alluding to, he does talk about how recently Skip Schumacher said, Jazz, get out there for the lefty. You're in for this one, brother. And I know you can do it. And Jazz kind of came away feeling like a bit of a spring in his step, that Skip believed in him against the lefties. Skip doesn't want to platoon Jazz. Clearly, the Marlins don't want to be platooning Jazz. No. They need him to be better against lefties. And I think maybe it's become a touch mental with Jazz too. And so having the confidence may help him, though, potentially. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think giving him all the at-bats you can. I mean, he's the offensive star of the franchise. They need him to take off, find that other gear, and you don't platoon your stars. And if he's the player that they need him to be, then no, you can't platoon that guy. If he's a bat that needs to be platooned, then the Marlins need to trade for a 1A, piece on there. They want Jazz to be the 1A, to be the superstar on the team. And that's kind of what this season is about. That's why they need to have him out there every chance they can get and find out if he is that player. I think if he can be the superstar or if he is a excellent, talented supporting player.
Yeah. One other wrinkle at this point. We'll do the next ad then after that. But the interesting wrinkle is, does Jazz come back and play center field? I think we assume so, right? But I know there was some question marks about how can we upgrade shortstop, for example. I must say Joey Wendell's had a bit of a decent run more recently. But there's been a lot of pressure on Wendell. Jonathan Davis is acquitting himself perfectly well defensively in particular. Could there be a consideration where you actually think, what? Let's roll with Davis out there and let's get Jazz in at shortstop. Could there be any suggestion around that? Or is it Jazz in center field all the way for you?
I think out of those options, it's Jazz all the way. I love what Davis has done, as you said, defensively. I mean, they brought him in to, Skip was quoted, well, we need someone who can hold down, center field defensively. We need someone who can, play good defense there. And he's done that. He's been great there. And, compared for him, I spend more time comparing Davis to Hampson, though, than, Davis to Jazz. Jazz is, Jazz has really surprised us with how he's done, defensively out there. But if someone were to push Jazz out of center field, I think that would be some, outside the organization star brought in. I don't think, Davis, would. I don't think he would be the one doing that. No, probably not.
Let's do the final ad of the day. And then I want to talk about another guy at the bottom of the order who's been hitting at the bottom of the order, but is actually really heating up as well, which the Marlins need. And that's Nick Fortes from the catching spot. That group was definitely struggling, but has turned a corner. So we're going to dig into that as well. But before we do that, guys, it's our final ad of the day. And it's our good friends over at BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And just firstly, it's BetterHelp, not Better Health. But it's easy to get caught up in what everyone needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. But when we spend all of our time giving, it can leave us feeling stretched thin and burned out. Absolutely feel that. Therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, highly recommend giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You have to fill out a brief questionnaire, and you'll then get matched to a licensed therapist. If you have to, If it doesn't feel right, for whatever reason, you can switch therapists at any time, no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp. You can visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP, .com/LockedOnMLB. All right. Some of us Marlins fans felt like when we were looking at the catching group's numbers that we needed to go into therapy at one point. But it's fair to say, particularly Nick Fortes has really started to heat up, I would say, offensively. And, this is probably the last 2 weeks, I would say, even longer, that stretch, it feels like with Fortes. But it definitely has started to click around for him, which I think was so important for this group. I'm intrigued to see the way that this catching group continues to evolve. Stallings remains Sandy's guy. Sandy's had a touch of, some struggles along the way, but it feels like Fortes is emerging here and getting potentially more of the starter role. They're kind of splitting time quite evenly, but just on Fortes' stick, mate, how important is it for him to continue this form and for them not to have a black hole at that kind of catcher spot?
Oh, it's huge. I want to shout out, what did the numbers? I think it was David Marcillo that put this out on Twitter. 333 for Fortes since May 15th. And that's insane. Like that's an all-star catcher since May 15th.
Really is.
If you look at his season average now, it's 250. It wasn't that long ago that it was. What was he even batting his weight? And then you mentioned this black hole catcher we were looking at. It was getting to the point where the Marlins were going to have to. I don't want to make this sound like Jonathan Davis slander, but that they were going to have to make that kind of trade, like a Jonathan Davis trade. That the catcher production was so bad that they were going to have to just get on the phone and find some team's AAA catcher. Oh, you have a AAA catcher that can hit 230. Take your pick of our 1A players. We need to get someone else on the roster. Pronto. The Fortes has turned that around. During this stretch, maybe some of that is quality of competition. Maybe some of that is just him warming up with more at bats. Getting more plate appearances. Seeing more pitches and starting to look like that hitter that the Marlins saw the second half of last season.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The other guy as well that's caught my eye in yesterday's game, I think definitely caught your eye. John Birdie as well. Mean Gene Segura has been the off-season ad that's really struggled the most, and John Birdie was asked to do tons with various injuries knocking around. But since guys are starting to filter back in, Birdie's time's starting to be shrunk a touch, but it's more, I guess, slanting over towards third base. And the Marlins do have a decision to make there because Birdie continues to hit, continues to impact the game. He always impacts the game, John Birdie. And Gene Segura just continues, nothing seems to be changing. Everyone's speaking relatively highly of him and his accountability, but fundamentally the numbers aren't lying at this point. And he's a little bit of an anchor, I suppose an anchor is a dead weight, maybe a touch too strong. But, does it start to get to a point where the Marlins think about Birdie taking kind of starter reps there at third base moving forward?
I think absolutely they're going to have to think about that. Segura has been terrible. Offensively, there's been some strong defensive plays, but that's even that I don't think it's been necessarily what they were counting on.
No.
The position, but especially offensively, we're into June, and while he's under 200, he's below the Mendoza line, still for this season, and they just can't do that. A common thing that gets thrown out for some of these players that have been struggling for the Marlins, whether it was Avi earlier in the season or Stallings for most of the season, aside from the couple of weeks, or Segura for all of the season, is that, well, no, the Marlins aren't going to do anything. They're screwed. They're not going to eat one of these contracts. Well, no, I think if they want to make the playoffs, they're going to eat one of them. So I think that's going to be interesting to see is which that is. They're going to have to move on from one of those contracts. And Segura's really been making a case, for even with that other year remaining, it's just they can't. He'll probably stay on the roster. I don't think they'll cut him, but I think he's going to become that bench infielder, really quick if he doesn't turn it around.
Yeah, you're right. This is it where, if the club is competing, and clearly right now we hope that they continue down this pathway, and if they're still in the hunt, we're looking for them to make the tough decisions, financial decisions, and prioritize getting in the production. Prioritize the production over the money. And that's what the decisions will need to be made in that space. I mean, Segura's back in the lineup today anyway, back at third base. He's not hitting 200 thus far. So we'll wait to see. Like, the Marlins are giving him plenty of leash, let's say. We haven't seen a ton. I mean, Avisail Garcia went on the IL, probably a month ago now, it feels like. Maybe it probably is a month. Started to go with the rehab, had a setback seemingly. Not hearing a ton of Avisail Garcia. Like, I do wonder here if the Marlins are kind of just slow playing this with Avisail Garcia and kind of, they're happy with their roster construction at this point of thinking, hey, Avi, we're just going to slow play it with you. Is that possible at this point for the Marlins to be doing that?
Oh, I think absolutely. I just learned in the last week how long it is that you can keep a player down there. I believe it's 20 games. And I think the Marlins want to run that meter out as long as possible for
run it out, baby.
And, don't bring Avi up until he's hitting 350 off of minor league pitching. And if he does that, great. Then bring him back and give him another shot. But if I think they're definitely slow playing it. Something's clicking in this clubhouse right now, and I don't think they want to mess with that vibe. Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Something is clicking. This team is performing in a way, and like you said, the sticks are here, and the offense is rolling. They're coming back from four run deficits. Like, they're never dead, this club, and things are working. And you just got to ride the hot hand. And so, with that being said, just keep it as is. And when someone cools off, maybe an injury happens, we'll see. Again, it kind of pertains to Jazz too, like how. Jazz is a different situation to Avi, clearly. But, I do wonder, like, I know Jazz will be pushing to get back, but, maybe the Marlins take it cautious for, health reasons, but also, just keep riding this momentum. But we'll wait to see on that one. Let's finish up here. We're a minute or two over, but we'll finish up with one final one. This episode has flown by the way. It's been a lot of fun. And the final question, the 10-game, the double-digit win streak tracker, it's currently up to 4. The Marlins have a chance to go 5. Jesus Luzardo going this evening as they go potentially 5 in a row. How far do you think the Marlins can go on this tracker? Do you think there's a chance they can get double-digit dubs on the spin? A franchise record as well, but I believe.
That's definitely the franchise record. I think there's a chance. This is about the softest landing spot on the schedule that they could be pulling this off. But yeah. Again, historically, they're playing Zach Greinke tonight. That's the kind of pitcher that would terrify me. With the Marlins, kind of old, grizzled, capable veteran, that's usually been poison for us. But we'll see. Again, if it's a different club, so if they can figure that out, then I think they're alive for it.
Let's go. You're completely right as well, by the way, about that Greinke matchup. Like, that is old Marlins world. Miggy Rose world. They would be absolutely bamboozled by this pitcher, and it would be a 2-0 loss. So let's see what Skip Schumacher's Marlins can do tonight against Greinke. But wait to see. But let's hope they get their 5th dub on the row. Halfway there on this streak. The reality is it doesn't matter. It's all about just piling up dubs. A streak, a 10-win streak would be amazing. But overall, it's just about using this schedule and maximizing it and playing well against these teams that you should beat and actually beating them. Because as the Braves saw against the A's, mate, nothing's a given. Nothing is a given, and no one is going to give you and hand you dubs. You've got to go and win them. So with that being said, thanks everyone for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. And so much thanks as well to Sean Millerick for joining me. I think this is his second. Is this your second appearance on Locked On? Yeah, absolutely. So appreciate Sean for hopping on. I'm sure he'll be back later in the year as well. Guys, programming notes. There is no episode on Thursday. There is an episode on Wednesday, so you will have a recap dropping early. I am on a boat trip on Thursday, away on a boat all of Thursday, drinking rum punch. There will be no episode from me, so I'll be back. Usual episode on Friday. Just want to call that out, guys, and let you know. But back tomorrow, early UK-friendly, recapping the Jesus Luzardo start. No episode Thursday, and then back Friday. Thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow.